Last Thursday, a report landed that was heavily critical of the church and of Justin Welby in their handling of a man who abused more than 120 boys.
So you know all those warnings from Ben Shapiro, from Candace Owens, from Russell Brand, of drag queens trying to sexualize your children? Turns out that again, it was the religious. Again. So here's a breaking story, though I'm coming to it a little bit late. Justin Welby, the head of the church, the Archbishop, has stepped down. Archbishop of Canterbury resigns over church abuse scandal.
The Archbishop of Canterbury, Justin Welby, has resigned days after he was criticised in a report over his handling of the case of a prolific associated with the church.
They say handling of the case, just like so many scandals of child by the church, by the religious. I wouldn't go so far as to say it was handled at all. What was handled is, how do we hide it? How do we again hide the fact that we're not protecting the children that we're meant to be looking after?
John Smyth, who died 6 years ago, subjected around 130 boys and young men to physical and psychological attacks over decades. The Archbishop, who was made aware of the abuse in 2013, was criticised in the report for not going to the police.
You hear that? Well over 100 young boys and men being you know what. And only now is the Archbishop receiving any kind of pushback. The events began in the 1970s, and now, 50 years later, he has to resign after he's been hiding it for all that time.
The Archbishop, who was made aware of the abuse in 2013, was criticised in the report for not going to the police.
Yeah, so he's known about it for at least 11 years. This person that they're referencing, he was from 1970s. From the 1970s he was doing this, and then other people in the church were hiding it. He was moved around to different places. I believe it was Africa, because that's what they tended to do. And the Archbishop of Canterbury knew about it, 11, 12 years ago. Did nothing. Didn't protect your children.
Today, Justin Welby said he felt a profound sense of shame that more was not done by the Church of England, and that it was clear that he must take personal responsibility.
I would hope that there was so much shame that you would actually have done something about it when you learnt about it, but you didn't. Let me give you a bit more detail. So here's a timeline of what we know. John Smith's abuse began in the 1970s, and he was abusing boys at an evangelical summer camp in the UK. So, parents would drop off their kids, look after them, they're going camping, and this guy was doing you-know-what. And he was known for inflicting them with severe, really severe, nasty abuse. Now, here's what's ironic, but not surprising whatsoever. Remember when homosexuality wasn't legal? Remember when there was so much more baggage in the UK around being gay? Well, guess who was involved in opposing it? Indeed, Smyth actually gained prominence as a senior barrister and was involved in various cases opposing homosexuality. It was in 1982 that they had an abundance of evidence, enough to be able to convict a normal person but not a church leader, and yet nothing happened. They didn't do anything about it. Well, I say that they didn't do anything about it, but they did. What they did is they went, listen, that's really bad. You shouldn't be doing that in the UK. So what we're going to do is send you to South Africa. And just don't do it again, okay? Now, bear in mind, the church had already done this with so many other of their, loving fathers. They'd already done this. And again and again and again, they had to keep moving them around because they kept doing exactly the same thing in different locations. So rather than ever growing a spine, rather than ever growing, a bit of justice and saying, right, get out. No, they didn't want to do that because that's a scandal on the church. It looks bad. And so they put the looks of the church above the children that the parents trusted in their care. And that includes, of course, the Archbishop. In South Africa, the church knew about it, but didn't report it. Didn't do anything about it. Then, on the 7th of November, an independent report, the Makin Report, was published, detailing extensive abuse by Smyth and criticising the church's handling of allegations. In particular, it highlighted how Welby, the Archbishop, did close to nothing for those children, and he ensured that a proper investigation didn't happen in 2013 when there was really credible evidence once again. Fast forward to the 12th of November, and finally Welby resigns. and takes responsibility and doesn't understand how they didn't deal with this very well. Maybe he could have learned from the many, many other times that the church has failed in its most basic of looking after its children. Just one of those times, maybe just one of them he could have learned from, but no. His priority was keeping the church safe. His priority was keeping his friends safe. His priority was keeping his own job safe. His priority was not the innocent children.
It was a turbulent 5 days that led to the resignation of the Archbishop of Canterbury. Last Thursday, a report landed that was heavily critical of the church and of Justin Welby in their handling of a man who abused more than 120 boys.
Fairly quickly.
Survivors shared their harrowing tales.
I kept the beatings a secret apart to my very close family, friends.
This is what's so sad. It's like the entire system, the entire community is built around protecting the priests, not protecting the children. Like, the children don't even feel safe to actually come out and actually speak about, the trauma that they're facing. And you can bet your bottom dollar, right? You can bet your bottom quid. This is happening still right now. They're still hiding this stuff, right? They've been doing it for like at least 50 years. They've told us what their modus operandi are. Like, anytime you see a religious leader being moved from one location to the other, that is a very serious red flag.
And the Prime Minister spoke about it.
My thoughts are with the victims here, who have obviously been failed very, very badly.
So there's our Prime Minister, Starmer. One thing I would say to that is do something about it. Like, okay, Welby's now actually resigned. Hold him accountable. Like, where else are we okay with this kind of nonsense? Like, seriously, hold him accountable. There should be criminal charges against this. You're a lawyer, for goodness sake. Act like it.
The Archbishop apologised for not doing enough to stop the abuse, but for many, that was insufficient.
For many, the BBC says, for many it was insufficient. How about everyone? No, it's just not okay, period.
Sadly, his position's untenable, so I think he should resign.
Today, the Archbishop announced he would. In a statement, the Archbishop says the Makin Review has exposed the long-maintained conspiracy of silence.
This is your leaders. Like, they're told of the rampant abuse that, those just below them are doing. And he thinks to himself, I'm hoping that there's a resolution here that's just good for everyone. I know what I do. I won't say anything. I won't report it. I won't do anything about it. I may even move him out to a different country where they're more vulnerable and have less, they are less likely to be able to express concerns and for those concerns to be taken seriously. Praise God.
The Archbishop of York, with whom he's worked closely for many years, said it was the right thing to do, but it had been a difficult time.
I admire him for taking this decision, which is about him not taking the blame for all of this, but exercising leadership and responsibility for the failings of the church.
Does it not just make you feel sick? He steps down finally because he has to step down, right? Absolutely has to step down. And then you get these people here, in powerful positions in the church, they don't act with disgust. Rather, they go, I think it's very commendable that he's resigned now that he's been found out. What are you doing? What are we doing as a culture? Like, why is that okay? Why can he say that? This is absurd.
The start of a decade in which he conducted the rhythm of national life. The christening of Prince George.
Oh, look, the Archbishop looking at Prince George. I wonder if he's going, you know what, if you go on camp with one of my mates and something happens, I won't report it. I won't say anything. Because that's what he did. He didn't say anything when he found out. Like, you may think, oh, that's an inappropriate comment to make. It's an inappropriate thing to happen. Where's the charges? Where is anything going with this? Like, if you want to stop the rampant abuse by church leaders, you have to come down on them with a ton of bricks. And we just don't do it as a culture. We just don't do it in general.
I must take personal and institutional responsibility. I hope this decision makes clear how seriously the Church of England understands the need for change.
Okay, he says that he thinks he understands, finally, the need for change. What about when it happened before? And happened before? And happened before? And happened before? You can just look up the cases. It's rampant. if you believe him and you leave your kid anywhere near him.
Now 64 and a retired teacher, Richard Gittins was one of John Smyth's dozens of victims. He says the resignation of Justin Welby should be just the start of the road to justice for him and many others.
I'm pleased he's resigned. It now shows that he's taken some action, and I think it also means that the focus can be turned on other people who knew and haven't done anything about it. Although he's the highest person in the church, he's not the most responsible for the cover-up. So I think it's time now to focus attention on other bishops who kept the stories to themselves.
Absolutely. Abso-fucking-lutely. Not good enough just to have a resignation. Pathetic. Real justice is not even achievable because Smyth is now dead. But something looking like justice would be those that hid it, those that were part of the system that hid this from authorities, that didn't allow it to be rectified, that allowed new generations of children to walk into such danger. They need to be held accountable. So going back to Starmer and saying about, it's very regrettable, we want to do something about it. Do what that victim just told you. Open out and conduct research and find the fuckers that were involved. I mean, there's no other way to put it. If you want to have any kind of ounce of justice, find them and hold them accountable. Now, reading a couple of comments, absolutely agree with some of these, right? The church should not be able to investigate themselves in criminal affairs. We have the police for investigating such vile crimes. Absolutely. Where else is it okay for you to conduct your own policing, like full-on policing on serious matters like this, and decide what the results are? Where is that okay? Only in the church. Only in religion. Now, here's a comment from a Christian, presumably. What a vile individual hiding behind Christianity. Despicable. Right, if you're a Christian, hold these people accountable. It's not enough for him to resign. Something has to be done because it's still happening to your children at these camps. How can you be sure? They've never actually fixed this issue after such a long time. And here's another. 2 types of evil in this world. Those who do evil things and those who see evil things being done, but instead do nothing. Indeed, all that is necessary for evil to triumph is that good men stand idle. And I wouldn't even call the ex-Archbishop a good man. Anyway, hell of a nasty story there, but, what can I say? Church elites being church elites, in my opinion. We've seen it too many times over, and they're probably not really going to be held accountable, and we're probably not going to see any real justice for those poor victims. If you have something you want me to react to, send it over. I'll be interested.